Hello, everybody. I'm Nancy Martland. I think I've met all of you, and I'd like to welcome you here this evening to meet our I'd like to welcome you to meet our next governor, Cinde Warmington. I first met Cinde over the telephone the first time she ran for executive council. She cold called me from, I don't even know where you live, Cinde, but it wasn't my district, and I thought, why is she calling me? But after like 5 minutes on the phone, talking to Cinde, finding out she's a person who listens to what you have to say and wants to know what you have to say, I was completely sold. I've admired her ever since. And I think I'd just like to call attention to a couple issues that I know Cinde stands up on. One is of a special importance to us in this area, which is LGBTQ issues. Cinde is a stalwart in that area. She made a special trip to come and view the murals in Littleton, for example, to show her support. And another is abortion rights. So I admire Cinde. I've watched her stand up to the 4 other guys and one woman on the executive council. She's fearless. She'll stand up for us, and I think we can really depend on her. So take it away, Cinde.
On the executive council for a while, Nancy, I went to Nancy's home for an event, and I spoke, and she gave me a rock that's painted that says, "She persisted." And I keep it with me to remind me to persist. All right, can everyone hear me? Sue Ford, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, Carl Marley, can you hear me? All right, everybody? Okay, good. So I am Cinde Warmington. I am the executive counselor for this district, District 2, and I am now candidate for governor. I do want to talk just a little bit about some of the things particular to the North Country that I have worked on the council. So we'll talk about the reproductive rights and schools and whatnot, but specific to this area, broadband. It has been, I'm like a dog with a bone on broadband, because I know that if we don't have broadband in our communities, then that undermines our ability for communities to thrive economically. It undermines the ability of people to get education remotely, to access healthcare services, and it will leave our communities behind. And the money that we have right now, thanks to the Biden administration, is once in a lifetime money. And if we don't use this money to get to every last mile, then it will never be economically viable to do that. So I have been on this day in, day out, and I think we're doing a really good job of it. We made sure we got into the market early, and we're able to start buying locations at about $2,000 per location, whereas now it's about $6,000 because all the states are competing for the same scarce resources. So I'm happy with where we are, and I think we are going to get to every single location. Another issue here, in particular in the North Country, is emergency medical services. And I really have been working closely with Senator Prentice on this. She is a champion on emergency medical services. But we saw that we're seeing the need here. We saw how the EMS providers here are really struggling, and we worked together to make sure we increase that funding. We got a huge increase in funding. Not only the Medicare rate, the Medicaid rates went all the way up to Medicare. Now, Joe knows how much that means. That's a lot. And so we got that funding, and we brought all of the services up to that level, and increased the funding, and got an additional boost for the provider that serves the Glencliff home as well, to make sure we were providing services there. And I am continuing to work on that issue, because I know how desperate it is. When I was at Littleton Hospital, and the CEO was saying to me, we have people who are waiting sometimes 12 hours who need to be transferred to a more acute level of care. That's just plain dangerous, and we need to make sure that we are addressing emergency medical services. And then there are more, but I'm only going to talk about these 3 local issues. Is Dalton, the landfill. Thank you for John Swan and everyone who has brought me up here to bring me up to speed on the issue when I took over this district. And I am very, very concerned about the placement of a landfill in Dalton where we do not have PFAS. And one of the things that we've learned on the Executive Council is we have PFAS all over the place now in our state. And we don't have it at Forest Lake, and we don't have it in those surrounding private wells. And to put a source of PFAS right there in a pristine area of our state, it makes no sense. We are not even beginning to talk about the number of trucks that will drive in and out of that facility every day, the roads that they're going to travel, the communities that they're going to go through. Not only bringing the trash, but I had to learn all about this. When it rains on a landfill, all those drippings, whatnot, and the decomposition of trash results in what they call leachate. And that leachate drops into a liner and gets pumped out every single day into trucks, which they take those trucks, they drive them down the road, and guess what they do with those leachate-full trucks? They put them in our drinking water, like in Merrimack County. They don't have any way of really filtering it out. They dilute it and they send it back into the drinking supply. Or they put it in a sludge pit, dry it out, scoop it up every once in a while, and do what with it? Bring it back to your landfill. Bring it back to your landfill and let it do it all over again. So this is a real issue that I am on this. I am working on this with DES. I am working on this with Representative Karen Ebel, and we are really focused on these issues that are specific to you all here in the North Country. And if there are other issues, please ask about them in the question and answer period. And so let me just say that we are incredibly fortunate, and especially in the North Country, to live in this beautiful, beautiful state of ours. But we really have real challenges that have gone unaddressed, neglected really, for way too long. And we have things that are really impeding the ability of people to thrive in our communities. You know, I think that the essence of our democracy is that everyone, no matter how humble their beginnings, has the opportunity to work hard, get a good education, and build a better life for themselves and their families. And that's my story, and I bet it's a story that sounds familiar to many of you. That when my parents got married, they were 20 and 23 years old. My dad worked at a shipyard. My mom waited tables to make ends meet. They had 4 kids in 5 years. Sorry. Boy, my mom would really be happy with that. 4 kids in 5 years. But they could still afford to put a roof over our heads, buy a little house, feed us, clothe us. I got a great public school education, and I got to be the first person in my family to ever go to college. And yet what I see now is that dream, that American dream, is slipped away from way too many Granite Staters. And what is it that is impeding the ability to thrive in our communities? Well, skyrocketing costs, right? Housing is the primary source of those skyrocketing costs right now. We are 60,000 units behind in our state, 60,000 units. And you know, I asked this question, this is a pretty simple question. Who is it in state government that is responsible and accountable for how many housing units we have? Guess how many people there are in state government that are accountable? Nobody. There is no one in state government responsible for that. So this is how you end up 60,000 units behind, right? It's a problem we haven't paid attention to, and we absolutely have to prioritize it. It is what is underneath our homelessness crisis. That is what is underneath our workforce shortage. This is what is underneath the fact that our young people can't afford to stay here and raise their own families. The other thing, reproductive freedom. For women, freedom starts with being able to make our own reproductive health care decisions. We don't need Kelly Ayotte or Governor Sununu in the exam room with us. Women can be trusted to make their own reproductive health care decisions. We absolutely have to do away with this dangerous abortion ban and replace it with access to safe and legal abortion in our state. I have been the leading voice in the State House on this issue for years now. I have gone toe-to-toe with Sununu on his abortion ban, calling it out for the danger that it actually presents to women in our state. When you put doctors in a position where they're not sure whether they can render the medical care that their patient needs, they have to second guess, they have to consult with their lawyers before they render care. That is dangerous. It is dangerous to women and healthy women and healthy babies. It is also what is undermining our maternal fetal health care system, because guess what? No surprise. Doctors don't want to work someplace where their liberty or their license is at risk if they just are rendering the health care that their patients need. We need to do away with this abortion ban, and we will. Public schools. All the things I fight on the council. Public schools. Frank Edelblut needs to go. Dismantling our public schools every single day, every day. He is dismantling them. How is he doing it? Well, he got his voucher program through, right? So he is siphoning off money, taking money, taxpayer dollars, public dollars, and giving them to private organizations, private and religious schools, for people who had already made the decision to send their kids to private school. We are just subsidizing that decision. And it looks like to the tune of about $66 million this year. This is coming right out of our schools. And then what happens as a result of that is that local communities end up having to raise their taxes because they're getting less funding. And then as a result of that, communities, his plan is that communities would finally say, we can't afford public school. It is an absolute intentional effort because they do not believe in public schools. And what I have to say about that is that Frank Edelblut's term is up 2 months after I take office. So many more issues, the environment, our gun violence, LGBTQ issues. My daughter and her wife have my 2 beautiful grandchildren, and it is very personal. It is visceral to me that there are people who would like to invalidate their marriage, who think it's okay to discriminate against my grandchildren. We're not going to have that, not in our state, and certainly we are going to make sure that we protect the rights of every person to love who they love and be who they are. Now you have a choice in this election, and most of you are sitting there saying, why you? Why you? Well, let me start with my experience is on the executive council. I am actually in the executive branch, where the job of governor is. We see everything that comes through the executive branch on the governor's side. We have to approve it all. I live it, breathe it, and work it at every meeting. I know how things work in the State House. I work with the legislature. I work with the governor. I work with the executive council. The hallmark of my time on the executive council has been that I have learned how to lead from a minority of 1. Some people call it Warmington's majority of 1. But honestly, that leadership comes from knowing how to stand my ground, and knowing how to fight, and knowing when to fight, and when to stand our ground, but also knowing how to find the common ground when we can. There are so many things that we can work together on that are not, they don't have to be political. That's one thing. Another is just learning what it is that they know and what what I know, and making sure that they have come to respect my abilities. I had 40 years of healthcare experience before I came to the Executive Council. 20 in hospitals. I started in the lab at Lakes Region General Hospital. I spent 20 years in hospitals. I spent 20 years then as a healthcare attorney. I know healthcare, and they've come to respect that. But perhaps the piece of my experience that's most relevant is that I represent all of you. And I represent 81 cities and towns in this district. And any person, city or town or business, can call me up and say, I have a problem with some agency in state government. And I can pick up the phone and call the commissioner of that agency, and they will answer the phone. Do you know why they'll answer the phone? Because we appoint them. And we reappoint them. And they come before us every 2 weeks with their contract. So if they don't pick up the phone when I call them, then I'm going to ask them at a public meeting, and that is not much fun. So we have a great relationship. What they have learned from me over the years is they can trust me. They can trust me to never politicize their issue. They can trust me to never ambush them at a council meeting. I'm not scoring political points off of them. I'm going to roll up my sleeves and get to work. So you have all of these commissioners. Why is this relevant? Because when we elect a governor, you don't get just to replace all your commissioners. We have to live with these Sununu appointees until their terms are up and we can replace them. So they could be working with me, they could be working against me. And they've been working with me for years. I am also, without question, the candidate who has gone toe-to-toe with Governor Sununu for years on end. You see that on the nightly news. He recognizes it. He was asked on the radio, what do you think about this Democratic primary? He said, Warmington will be formidable. He knows from personal experience. My husband was asked, why do you think he said that about you? And he said, because every once in a while, the truth just slips out of that man's mouth. In good humor. But let me just say this. You know, whoever is going to win this race is going to have to get on the debate stage with Kelly Ayotte, a trained attorney, a trained debater, and is going to have to go toe-to-toe with her. And I think I am the person who can do that, and I certainly have shown that over the years. Yes. The polling that we have in this race, a couple of really key data points. UNH does a poll on favorability and unfavorability. Nobody who starts this race with a negative favorability has ever gone on to be governor for as long as they've been tracking that. I am the only person in this race that starts with a positive favorability rating. And all of the others in the race have historically high negatives, which is a very excellent predictor of success. We just did our own polling. It confirmed that people respond very positively to the positive message that I'm bringing, that I am a fighter, that I will fight for their values. And what we found in that polling is that once introduced to the voters, I will win this race. I am the strongest person to win this race and beat Kelly Ayotte. So, and we have to beat her. We have to beat her. You know, she has voted for a national abortion ban. She is trying to whitewash this now, but she has voted for a national abortion ban. She helped Trump to put a Supreme Court justice on the court to overturn Roe v. Wade. She celebrated the fall of Roe v. Wade. She even helped sponsor legislation that would restrict access to in vitro fertilization. She is truly, truly extreme. She would continue Frank Edelbluth's voucher plan. She would continue the dependence we see on fossil fuels and the complete ignoring of climate change. She would continue all of the things that we know must change if we're going to move our state forward. So we have a real choice in this election. We can choose right now to live in a state where we have the right to vote, really important, that we can love who we love and be who we are, where we can make our own reproductive health care decisions. We can live in a state where teachers are allowed to teach the truth and students can learn, where we can drink clean water and breathe clean air. We can live in a state where every single family, like mine, can put a roof over their kids' heads and feed them and clothe them and give them a great education and retire with dignity, and it is not too much to ask. I hope you'll join me on the journey. Thank you. I'm going to take some questions, but someone's going to keep me on a clock because Rusty Talbot, where are you? Rusty is going to speak after me, and we want to make sure you all hear from Rusty because he's going to be your next senator. So, happy to take questions. Questions are the best part. Yes.
Cindy, I don't see any reporters here, so I will ask this question. I come from the affordable housing industry, and my question to you, over the years I've learned that New Hampshire doesn't have an expense problem. We really know how to live within our means. Our issue is revenue. I think that the current governor has been blessed by all of the federal money that has come into the state. And I personally am of the opinion the reason why he's not running now is because he knows all that money's going to go away. So if and when you come in and take his place, what are some of the thoughts that you have about bringing in some more revenue and protecting some of the programs that we've been able to start with some of this federal money that we never would have had it not been for COVID?
Yes. So first I want to say that I will oppose any broad-based tax, any income tax or sales tax. And I want you to think about when I said before that I am going to see my decisions through the lens of that working family. That family that needs to be able to put a roof over their heads and feed their kids. All of our decisions need to be seen through that lens. And those taxes, who pays income taxes? Working people. I will not put a bigger burden on our working people. I simply will not do that. We are running surpluses right now. You mentioned federal money. One of the flaws in this administration is they leave way too much money on the table. They often don't take federal money. We need to be better at our job there in making sure we identify and take the federal money that's available. The first thing we're going to do is take back the $66 million that Frank Edelblut is siphoning out of our system, right? And then we are going to build a responsible budget from the ground up. Anybody here, Sue Ford here, were you here in 2018? We built a responsible budget in 2018 that legislature did from the ground up that serves the needs of the people of our state. We can do that and we will. And I just want to say this. I know this is presumptuous of me because I haven't been elected yet, but if I wait until I'm elected to get busy on the next biennium's budget, then it will be too late. By the time I've got my hand on the Bible, then the cake will already be baked because the budgeting process starts now. It starts all this time right now. So I have already, I said presumptuous, but I have already been meeting with House and Senate leadership and Ways and Means on both the revenue side and the expense side to go over the budgeting, to talk about what the priorities are going to look like in our next administration so that we can pivot quickly after the election and make sure I don't have to live with a budget that is based on Sununu's values. So already to work on that, and you know we are blessed with surpluses right now, and we expect we will continue to have a strong economy and have those surpluses, and I believe we can build a strong and responsible budget for our state. Thank you.
So to follow up with that, the interest and dividends tax went down 4% last year, and it's 3% this year that's scheduled to disappear. I consider that Sununu's calling card for his national ambitions. He doesn't want to have to go against the Texas and Florida governors and say we have a income tax here at all. Do you think it's realistic for that to disappear?
It's already almost essentially has disappeared, and we're still running surpluses. And again, we're gonna build a budget, and we're already doing it from the ground up. A responsible budget based on our priorities. We've done it before. We'll do it again, and that's how we're gonna make this work. So. Who else? Any issue? Any question? Not too hard. Yes.
I am on a list that gets repeated notices from your opponent down in Manchester. And I am curious how we're going to make certain that you succeed rather than she as the alternative.
Yes. All right, so the question for all of you is how am I going to win this primary, basically. And you've already heard, I have the experience, and I have statewide experience. I've represented 8 cities and towns in 8 out of our 10 counties. I don't have experience in just one area of the state, but statewide, I have that knowledge of the state house. But I'll also say this, we are going to win this race if we keep the fight on abortion, public schools, and the skyrocketing costs that are facing working families. If we keep the fight there, we win. And we have to be talking about these issues every single day. We cannot get pulled off into other issues. Where the Republicans would like this race to go, and they have already said they would like to run against my primary opponent, is they would like to drag this over. My primary opponent is running on her record in Manchester. They would like to run on her record in Manchester. They would like this fight to be about homelessness, drugs, and crime in Manchester. And if we go there, then we're not talking about the things we have to talk about if we're going to win. So that is how we're going to win this race, by continuing every single day to talk about the things that matter to everyone. And I will tell you, no matter where you go, no matter what party, no matter how many disagreements we have, absolutely everyone wants to feed their kids and put a roof over their heads and give them a great education. And we're going to keep talking to those people. So, thank you for the question. And all the way in the back.
Thank you, Cindy, for coming. Thank you, Martins, for hosting this. And as a grandparent of children in the Lafayette School and in the Profile School who march and raise placards and are very involved and cannot wait to vote, how are you reaching out to the ones who are in college? Not that we're not all young at heart, but the younger.
Yeah, I want to tell you the particular challenge with the primary is that the college kids are either not back or not quite back, right? But we are reaching out to them and having dialogues with all the college Dems, the high school Dems, young Dems, and continuing that conversation all across our state. And focusing on the things that really matter, right, to young people. The cost of, for a lot of people, higher education skyrocketing. I mean, in our state, it's terrible. We are the worst in the country on this issue. It's cheaper to go and pay out-of-state tuition in some places than it is to have our in-state tuition. Our students graduate with the highest student debt. We have to address the issues, again, of housing and of childcare and of broadband. They're not going to live anywhere where there's no broadband or cell service. We have to listen to young people and address the issues that are most important to them. And I think listening is, my mom used to say 2 ears, 1 mouth. You should listen twice as much as you're talking. I could probably take a lesson from that right now. But that's how we're going to do it. Hear and respond, to our young people. I've got 2. Yes, I'll take yours first.
David Van Houten from Bethlehem. What is your vision for bringing more clean energy to New Hampshire?
Yes, thank you. You may or may not know that the governor is actually hostile towards renewable energy. He particularly hates solar. I don't know why, and has blocked all sorts of legislation that would help us to increase the availability, the use of renewable energy sources, all of them. And he has also intentionally blocked and undermined energy efficiency efforts. Now, that is a head scratcher. No one can really understand why anyone would be against energy efficiency, but he honestly doesn't believe that it is a good investment. It is. And so as a result of that, what we have is a public utilities commissioner that doesn't believe in climate change, a commissioner of energy that believes the climate is changing, but doesn't believe government has any role in addressing it. So we can start there. We need a commissioner of energy that believes in climate change. We need a climate action plan, and we need an energy plan in our state. We don't have one. We have this total dependence on fossil fuels. And we just really need to look at the beautiful, bright, green future that is in front of us, including the beautiful, bright, green economy, those jobs that other states are happy to take, and invest them there. And that is what we're going to do. We have all sorts of more specific things to talk about in terms of how you actually do that. But in general, let's invest in clean and renewable energy sources all across our state and stop this dependence on fossil fuels. It's just inexplicable. So, Sue.
Cindy, I was just going to throw in, since I've been involved with the Democratic Party, they have started a Young Dems group. They've started a high school group. They've started college groups. They are working hard to get the kids involved with that, and I need to compliment Littleton and how they pulled it together for the last election, and they did a phenomenal job. If any of you know people that should be involved in the Young Dems or send me an email. I'll send you the contact information because they are wonderful people to work with. The college people, the high school people, it gives me great hope.
Great, thank you. And thank you, Sue Ford, for everything you've done for our state. All right, so I've been doing this a little bit longer than Rusty has because this is how you can tell, because he ended his speech without telling you that he can't do this unless you support him.
That's true.
And you're all going to hear more from him about that, but that is just the reality. It takes a lot of money to get the message out. To do a mailing, it takes thousands of dollars. I don't know how much for a Senate district, but when I was doing executive council, it's about $30,000 per mailing. You've got to do about 6 or 7 of them. It's a lot of money to run one of these races. And if we want him, and we want people all around this district to know who he is, they're going to have to see it in their mailboxes and in their digital ads. And so I just urge you all to support Rusty. And I will also say that if you haven't donated to my campaign, we are going. Kelly Ayotte raised $2.7 million on her first filing. Right. And I don't think that's even close to the amount of money it's going to take to convince the women of our state that she should be the one making their reproductive health care decisions for them. But we're going to have to get the word out about her. So I urge you to contribute and be as generous as you can be. The individual limit is $15,000, so don't give me any more than that. But I appreciate all of you for being here tonight and for all of your support. Thank you.
Thank you.